Peru. Mainstream history says that it was built by the Incan people. But as far as I can figure out, it was captured by the Incan people, destroyed, and then rebuilt. And that's why you see large stones and small stones. The smaller stones is very common with the later Incan people. All right. The next page is actually also two pictures of the same place. It's called Sacsayhuaman. The stones used in the construction of the terraces at Sacsayhuaman are among the largest used in any buildings in pre-Hispanic America. The precision of the fitting is unmatched in the Americas. Since I'm just about done, then I'll just move on to the last picture. The last picture is Tiwanaku. And the interesting thing about Tiwanaku for me is that it's, and this is in Bolivia, but also an Incan pyramidal area. Tiwanaku is about 80 kilometers from Lake Titicaca. That would be insane at the time to build your city 80 kilometers away from water. So at some point the lake actually came right up to the pyramid complex. If you look closely in that picture towards the base of the pyramid, there are holes in the pyramid, and scientists have found that when it rained, they channeled the water through the pyramid, so there were channels of water, tunnels of water running through the pyramid. Okay, so in conclusion, I ran over these sites in Peru and Bolivia quickly, just to give a contrast to Egypt, because I just wanted to give one contrast to what Egypt is like, and I could have chosen, pyramids in Mexico, or I could have chosen pyramids in Guatemala, or I could have chosen pyramids in China or other places, but I decided on Peru. I wanted to show that there are similarities between and differences between these places. If you're really interested in these subjects, there are a couple great movies that you can watch. You can ask me about those, or books. And I believe that these sites are much older than mainstream history would have us believe, and are far more than just tombs. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So now we go to the question and discussion part. We have less than 30 minutes. Okay, each of you first one question, and then... Okay.
Yeah, I have a question about you're talking about the bottle. I didn't quite get that. Where's the... So you were saying that there's this charge in the pyramids? And what is that charge for?
Well, we don't know, but there are a lot of theories as to what it would have been for. The guy was standing on top of the Great Pyramid. So, in theory, if the pyramid was reconstructed and fully built out, that it should have, at night, it should have glowed on the outside with sort of ball, lightning, static electricity on the outside. And, I mean, this goes into a whole lot of other stuff. As best I could figure out, they were using sound technology and generating electricity for uses and other things too. Sound technology for healing, sound technology for a lot of stuff. Where was the electricity? The electricity was running through the water, being collected on the inside of the pyramid. There are tunnels that go all the way down to the aquifers, and then some of those tunnels would have flooded as well as the Nile rose. So the electricity would have been created on the inside through the corridors where the granite is, and then would have, I guess, come out of the top and spread all over the world. It's really complicated, and there are a lot of different ideas about it, but we don't know. We don't know. I don't know.
So they might have had lights, but they didn't.
The whole pyramid could have lit up as a beacon.
Did they have glass? Did they find anything like that?
No, but they found a lot of. I can't tell you if anyone ever found glass, but they found a whole lot of quartz crystal. There are quartz floors. There are giant quartz bowls that are this big. There There's a shaft. There's a shaft at one of the pyramid complexes that runs all the way down to the aquifers at the bottom, and on the top of the shaft is a circular quartz plate, and then a square quartz plate. So there's air running down the sides of that. And there's all kinds of strange stuff that nobody can explain.
Okay, next question.
So I'm just curious, you presented a contrast between mainstream history and your viewpoint. In your opinion, where has mainstream history gotten it wrong in the study of megalithic stone structures, and why?
Well, I can't say about all megalithic stone structures, but at least it seems that I don't know if the Egyptologists, the main Egyptologists, are hiding things, or I don't know if they want to keep it like we found it first. So if you guys find anything, we're not going to let that kind of information out until we can verify it, and we can. Where have they got it wrong? I think they've got it wrong. A lot of what mainstream history says is that civilization started 6,000 years ago, and it's obvious to me that it's much older than that. And the main Egyptologist, this guy Hawass, is just really adamant that the Sphinx is not older than 4,500 years, and that the pyramid was built in 14 to 20 years, and it was a tomb for the pharaoh. And I think all of these things are wrong. I think they've gone wrong on almost everything.
But I mean, is there a type of institutional bias? I guess
I think it is institutional bias.
The chronology of mainstream.
The chronology, yeah. And I think there is institutional bias. There's institutional bias in all kinds of fields of study. It's the status quo and don't rock the boat and things like that.
Could it be that you talk about, you think it might be wrong that it was a tomb, but you also talk about the water going through and the energy lines. And I think the Egyptians were fascinated by preserving the life, with the mummification and whatnot they preserved. Would that sort of tie in, do you think, with the energy lines, like they're keeping this energy and that might somehow preserve
the life force?
The king or whatever?
Well, it's not as if the tombs were in a completely different point. They were still built along these energy lines. It just so happens that there's really no evidence for the pyramids, the Great Pyramids themselves, being tombs. I can't say that I know exactly what the ancient Egyptians were thinking as to what they wanted to do with that energy, but I'm just thinking that there's a lot of evidence for it, that they were at least thinking about it. More questions?
Yeah, just a comment. Just coincidentally, today over lunch, my friend was telling me that a lot of those magnetic PowerPoints run underneath and cross Red Deer, Canada, which is a small town. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I don't know anything about Red Deer.
Yeah, well, if there's any Canadians for me.
Are there any ancient mounds there?
Not that I haven't done any research. I just found that out.
Where are some of the other notable ley line crossings in the world that you know?
I have not studied it.
Does anyone know?
I think they're all over the place. I would say probably where Stonehenge is. I would say probably you could pick out the major megalithic sites, and they're probably there. One of the guys did research at Chichen Itza in Guatemala. Chichen Itza is in Mexico, sorry. Is that in Guatemala? I can't remember now. And he was researching the amount of electromagnetism in the air. And he went on one of the newer pyramids and found out that it wasn't very electrified. And he went on one of the older pyramids and found out that it was. So I don't know if that means that it's in the construction, or if that has the age, but they're definitely in the same place. But I don't know where the rest of them are. There is a lot of information on that online. More questions?
More questions?
Yeah, so you were saying about Nikola Tesla, about the asymmetric current that the pyramids were collecting, and I didn't quite understand when you were referring to Nikola Tesla, what that had to do with, and his invention, what that had to do with...
Nikola Tesla seemed to have I can't think of a good word for this, he found these energies again, and he was able to harness them and was ready to give free power to the world.
Yeah, he invented the
alternating current.
So it can be sent to the far distance. Yeah. So did the pyramids do anything similar?
They very well may have. Yeah, they very well may have.
Maybe the collected current can be sent to another pyramid.
Right. I think that would be related to how you have the 3 pyramids at Giza and then the 3 pyramids at Dashur that are very similar to it. So they could have been sending energy back and forth between those.
Like energy can be some kind of signal, like for communication.
It's hard to say. They could have been sending it all the way across to Central America or to Stonehenge. I really don't know. Nikola Tesla was working on ways to send information using that electricity. So
it was a Serbian scientist.
So how much time do we have?
I have one
still
question.
Have lots of time actually.
So some of the pyramids were, as I understood, some of them were tombs.
Tombs, yeah.
Tombs, or all of them were tombs, but they also had other.
Well, as far as the 3 great pyramids at Giza, there's no evidence whatsoever that they were tombs.
Okay. And is there any relation between being tombs or collectors of energy? Is there any relation between this?
Well, that's kind of what Tom was asking. But yeah, I don't know. As far as I can tell, all of the tombs have tons of hieroglyphics on them, tons of paintings, and especially the most important painting was the books of the dead, the 12 gates that the dead person would have had to travel through, and all the things he had to do to reach, he or she had to do to reach the other world.
Yeah, okay. More questions? Yeah.
Just
Steven?
a small one. You said it took 20 to 40 years to build.
What the information that I found was 12 to 20, 13 to 20 years, 14 to 20 years. Before I heard 40 years.
I've heard like hundreds of years. I mean, that's what they say in the movies, right? It's like a generation starts and then the next generation goes on and.
Well, I would like it if that was mainstream history, but it's not. I mean, from what I've studied is that it was actually built in like 3 different construction times. Like there are temples around the pyramids, especially that first picture with the trilithon construction. There are temples around the pyramids that were probably built first, and then the pyramid was built in, say, maybe 3 stages over the course of probably hundreds of years. Well, I don't know. But according to mainstream history, it's 20 years, 20 years, which just seems impossible to me.
We have another question there.
I was just wondering if there's anything written that's come down from Egypt that kind of supports this 20 years, or anything written that would support.
Yeah, I did not research into who has that claim, but I assume it's the Egyptologists.
But if there's like a scientific explanation or scientific purpose behind the pyramids, don't the ancient Greeks have writings about the science that they came up with and other cultures have this? Would there be something in the record from Egypt, or is there just no record?
Well, the pyramids themselves have no hieroglyphs on them at all. There is a story about there's one hieroglyph in one chamber of the Great Pyramid that supposedly says the name of Khafre. Is it Khafre? I can't remember. Cheops is the Greek name, but that's disputed. Are there any writings about it? No, I don't think there are any writings that say how long it took them to build it. I'm not sure if there are even any writings about the pyramids themselves. That's a good question.
Yeah. So the science still hasn't confirmed this.
Right, but I think mainstream history says that it was a short time, built for one ruler. I mean, if it's going to be built as a tomb for one ruler, it has to be built during the ruler's lifetime, right? You can't say, okay, we're going to build it for this ruler who hasn't been born yet, right? It has to be built during that person's lifetime. And these people usually didn't live very long. And that right there should show you, you know, obviously it was not built as a tomb, you know, because you just cannot build it in one person's lifetime. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
We still have a lot of time.
I have a question.
Okay.
What do you think this kind of megalithic stone for? What do they make them that for?
What's your opinion?
What's my opinion about all megalithic constructions around the Earth? I don't know.
Because I heard that some people say it can connect to the outer space.
Right.
What do you think?
Connect to outer space in what way? Well, there's a lot of connection between, say, the pyramids or other pyramids around the world. That there are astronomical connections, such as or sun connections, like the Great Pyramid, or all three of the pyramids at Giza are laid out perfect northwest, east, north, south, east, west. The Great Pyramid at Giza has in what's called the Queen's Chamber and what's called the King's Chamber. They don't actually have any writings in them, so we don't know what they were. There are shafts, these square shafts running through the pyramid and out of the pyramid. And if you, use a computer to, draw a line straight through that shaft, they point at stars and they point at constellations. I personally, what I think, the pharaoh was born. A lot of these temples were to educate the pharaoh about all kinds of things, to teach him about his body, to teach him about the relationships between animals and all kinds of things. And I think they would have also been like, okay, and look, we built this pyramid here, look, and it's pointing at these stars, and when you die, you're going to go back to those stars. They did actually believe that they would have gone back to Sirius in Orion's belt.
But just the star will change. That they will stay like they will move. The star will move, and through these thousands of years, do you think this kind of formula still can be right? Because the star will move.
Right, stars, but they don't disappear. I mean, there's a 26,000 year precessional cycle as to where stars rise on the horizon. In terms of also what's east, north, and south, and west. They do move over 26,000 years, and after 26,000 years, they're back at the same point. The computer imaging or the computer modeling has shown that a lot of these things were set up to a time of 12,500 years ago. They're not set up to a time now. If you look at them now, you go, okay, there's no connection. If you take this Sphinx, which is a lion, he's pointing exactly where the sun comes up on the spring equinox, which, by the way, is today. Today is the spring equinox. The sun rises directly in front of the lion's head or the pharaoh's head every spring equinox. But the astrological group of stars that rises changes over a 26,000 year time. During the time 4,500 years ago, it was Taurus actually rising there. And you would think if it was Taurus, the bull, they would have carved out a big bull. You have to go back 12,500 years to find Leo, which originally the Sphinx would have been a whole lion, and it wasn't until Pharaoh later came and was like, we're going to change that. I'm going to put my head on that lion.
Okay.
There's a lot of astronomical connections, yeah, tons.
Can you say something about, you mentioned that you studied other places on the Earth, the other pyramids. Can you say something in short time, minute or two, the relation between what you talked today and the other pyramids, like in their new pyramids they claim they discovered in Bosnia? Yeah. We're not sure about it yet. So,
well, the more that people go around and search the Earth, it seems the more pyramids are found. I mean, I did a lot of research on this, and originally I wanted to talk about all of the megalithic sites. I found there are pyramids in Malta. There are pyramids. There are pyramidal. Same guy. There are pyramidal mounds of earth in the United States. There are mysterious places like the Chocolate Hills in the Philippines. There are pyramids in China.
Must be the same guy.
There are pyramids in China. There was a set of 5 pyramids discovered in Bosnia that are just being excavated, and I'd say probably half. It's hard to say, the proportion, but maybe half the people believe that they're just natural, and the other half say, no, these are pyramids. They don't look like the pyramids at Giza. It's a totally different construction, but caves have been found underneath the pyramids with stones with writing on them, caves that link the different pyramids together. There are pyramidal constructions. It's not just necessarily pyramids, don't get me wrong. It's really megalithic stone constructions. Because if you take something like, there's a really interesting place called Karnak in France, in northern France. It's actually the largest megalithic site on Earth. It's kilometers long with thousands of giant stones, and nobody knows anything about it. There is one giant, not pyramid-shaped, one giant mound with a trilithon doorway with somebody was buried inside of it, and inside of it are stones with crazy carvings on them, and it just, there's tons of stuff everywhere, all over the world, and I haven't fully researched all of them. Any more
we have
questions?
5 more minutes.
It's interesting that you talked about Tesla and creating electricity, and the shape of the pyramid is interesting as well, because I know, like for meditation, some people say the pyramid shape, if you sit underneath a pyramid-shaped copper pyramid, you get more energy that way. One thing you mentioned about the crystal in the shaft, you mentioned there's a crystal in the shaft. That's also used in what's called an orgone cloudbuster, which actually can change the weather. And Tesla's
they very well could have had all different kinds of technologies. I mentioned the giant crystal bowls, which mainstream Egyptology says were for ritualistic slaughter of cows, and there are holes that the blood would have run out of. But actually, the Egyptologists came and took them and put them in a row, just set them there. They're still sitting out at the site. They're not guarded by anyone. People have come and chipped away at the crystal. And they don't know what they were for. They're not even put in a museum because they just have no answers for them. But I have this imagination of them creating this electricity. If you want to know my imagination, I don't have an opinion, but my imagination likes to imagine them creating this electricity and then sort of beaming it down to these quartz crystal bowls, and then sort of connecting the energy and doing something with it. Who knows? Maybe they were cutting the stones with it. They could have been moving the stones with it. There's definitely stuff with sort of sound technology at one place. There are these rooms built and these steps going up, the patient would come in, choose where to lie down on this stepped platform, depending on just where they felt right, and the healer, the physician, would in another room, would stick his head through this hole and sort of listen for the way that the sound was interacting, and would be able to know where the person is sick. I mean, it's quite strange.
So we had one question there?
Yeah, I mean, someone touched on this briefly, but I mean, I wonder how familiar you are with arguments that these types of structures would not have been within the technological capabilities of ancient peoples. Mm-hmm. And so some people speculate that these may have been the work of extraterrestrials, or, you know, highly advanced civilizations that we've never heard of.
Right.
I'm specifically asking about extraterrestrials.
I want to say that I'm open. Obviously, I believe that this universe is huge. I go into multiverses, and if aliens, sure, I think they're out there. I just don't know if they're here or have ever come here. I really like Sagan's argument. Is like why, out of all the places in the universe to go, why would they come here? There's absolutely no reason. Unless they were just passing by. And if they're passing by, they're probably going really fast. They're like, hey, what's that? I think I just saw somebody move on the surface of that planet. But on the other hand, who knows? Maybe they're here, or maybe whatever. No, I personally think it's more like there was an advanced, one or more advanced civilizations around during the time of the last ice age, and when there were a series of melting events, whether they were from meteors or whatever, that the coastal areas were flooded, and people had to move, and technology was lost, and things like that. I would like to think that humans are capable of more than we give them credit for, without the help of gods or aliens.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we have to close up. Anyone? Final question?
Any more questions? And otherwise, we're gonna move outside and continue this discussion.
If not, is there anything you want to say that you didn't say?
I want to say thank you.
Okay.